Welcome to this video. My name is Eva, and in this video I want to share with you some pros and cons and the difference between being self-employed and working a 9 to 5. Maybe it helps you if you're in a position of thinking of quitting your job and not sure if you should start your own business or you should just get another job, or if you are working for yourself, maybe if it's time to get a 9 to 5. So just the pros and cons, and I really hope that it will help you. And I already made the video before, but the audio was not good, so let's do it again. So the first pro is for being self-employed is basically you have usually a lot of learning to do, so you have a lot of personal growth as well, which means that you have to work on yourself to learn a lot of different skills, because when you start your own business in the beginning you're usually a one-man show. So there are just a lot of different areas that you need to learn, like marketing, sales, administration, finance, the legal aspect for your business. And if you provide a certain service, obviously you need to have the skills to share your knowledge. So it's a lot of different skills. And also then the mental side of it. So you need to overcome limiting beliefs, and so a lot of learning for you to do, and it's connected to personal growth, and it can feel fulfilling if you work on that, and also this fulfillment that you work on something that really means a lot to you. This can happen if you're self-employed because it's your product and something that you really care about. So in some situations you can make your hobby to your work, and it can feel quite fulfilling because you really work on something that matters to you. And also another benefit is scalability, because if you have your own business, you're directly profiting also from the growth of the company. So if the company is growing, or if you attract more clients, you will also make more money. So that is something great, because you can just make more money when the company is also making more money. So it's exponential. The possibility for exponential growth is there. And also you don't have a boss, so this can be a pro if you before maybe you had bad experiences with a boss and now you don't have one, so you're free in what you do. So you have a lot of in some sense, obviously it's a generalization, but in some sense you have some flexibility. You can say, okay, I will work on Sunday and I will not work on Wednesday. So you have some flexibility there because it's your company and you make the rules. Obviously you still have to follow certain rules like tax, insurance, etc., but it's still to a certain extent you making your own rules about your business, and it can be quite freeing. And now the cons of being self-employed, basically, obviously it always depends. There are so many different ways to be self-employed and so many ways also to have a 9 to 5. So pick and choose what fits you basically. But if you work for yourself, it can happen that you have a lack of stability, because especially in the beginning you don't know the skills that you don't know yet, so you don't know how many clients you will get. And so it can be a little bit uncertain, because if you provide services, you don't make a sale, you also don't make any money, and it can be quite scary. And for a lot of people it can be quite hard on the mental health, because you have you have fixed costs, like you have to pay rent, you have to pay electricity, whatever it is, food. But if your business fluctuates, it can cause a lot of stress on your mental health. And also there could be a lot of uncertainty in it, because there's if you start a business, there's no guarantee that it will work out. I mean, in some cases yes, but in a lot of cases it's not 100% certain. So it can feel like you risk something, you put in so much work and effort without really knowing if it will work out in the end. So it can feel quite frustrating at times. And also obviously in the beginning you don't have that financial compensation. So if you're studying, if you're learning, figuring out how it works, or creating a website, etc., there's so much work involved, and you don't know if it works out, and you don't get a financial compensation for it. Whereas if you work for a 9 to 5, or you work for someone else, you get paid for the hours that you put in. and it's, yeah, you get that financial compensation. But if you first start your business, usually you don't get that. Also, it could take some time for your business to work out, and you don't even know if it will work out, but still, it usually will take some time for you to learn all of those skills. And also, what could happen if you're a solo entrepreneur is you could feel quite lonely, because you work alone in your room, so you don't have that support system. And there are a lot of ways to get this support system, like going to co-working spaces and eventually having your own team. But yeah, maybe it could feel quite lonely for you, and certainly for me it felt quite lonely at times, because you don't have, if you work for a company, sometimes you work in a team and people can uplift each other. But if you're a solo entrepreneur, usually you don't have a team yet, so it can feel quite lonely. Also, when, for example, friends and family, they don't understand you, they make fun of you, or they don't support you, so it can feel quite lonely in the beginning. And also, um another con that I noticed is that I feel like when you have a business, you really have to give 110% basically. So you have to work on weekends to really put in a lot of effort. And now, when some crisis situations come, like someone dies in your life, or you have the wars or whatever it is, that really throws you um, out of your normal way of thinking and causes a lot of grief and suffering for you. I think for me it felt really hard to work on my business, because if I work for someone else, I know, okay, I have to do it, but I also get paid for it. So yeah, when I was having bad times, I would like work and then cry, and then work and then cry. But if I had my own business, I didn't have the energy to work on my own business, because on the weekends I was crying or something. So yeah, and that's also involved with a lot of risk, or it could be involved with some risk, because you basically, you are responsible for your own income when you're a freelancer. So yeah, important to keep in mind. But obviously also always depends which country you work in, which system you depend on, which insurance you have, etc. But it could be a potential risk factor. And also that that the income is unstable, so sometimes it's just hard to to make plans, to say, okay, this is for example, if you want to buy a house, maybe you're not sure how much money you make per month. And also, if you want to take a loan, or you want to go into real estate business, where you get a loan for an apartment, so that you can rent it, and then, like real estate business, in the bank, if you don't have consistent income, can say to you, no, we don't give you the loan, or we give you a loan but only with a very high what's it called in English, a very high, oh, I don't know, so where you have to pay per month a lot just to get the loan basically. So yeah, so a lot of drawbacks. And also one that I noticed is with this personal growth, but without the support system, it can feel like you're stuck sometimes. And for me, at times it felt like I was fighting against myself, and I was also comparing myself a lot with other people, because yeah, if you work for a company, sometimes you're in the team, so everyone is working together. And if you just start your business, it can feel like you're working against yourself, like you constantly have to work against yourself, so it can feel a little bit demotivating. But yeah, obviously these are some drawbacks, but there often or sometimes solutions also to those drawbacks. But just to give a realistic point of view for some people who think that they might want to start a business, that it's not always so easy. And yeah, and also maybe the last one is that you could lose money when you start a business, just because if you, in the beginning, if you don't know what you're doing yet, because you don't have the skills yet, you could just invest in completely wrong things. So there could be some risk involved. And now some pros of obviously working for someone else in a 9 to 5 is that, first of all, it's usually consistent income. Obviously depends on what type of work you do, but usually it's consistent income. It's, you can plan with it. You can say, okay, I earn this specific amount per month, so this is what I will spend on food, on rent, etc. Or and if you want to buy a house and take a loan, the bank says, okay, you will get this specific amount of money each month, so we will give you a loan. That can be beneficial. Also, you have someone who tells you what to do, and for a lot of people it can feel quite great, because there's less uncertainty and more structure, and a lot of people thrive with that, just to have someone tell them what they do, and they can just do their work and then go home and not think about it, at least in some positions. Also, you have the possibility for career growth. If you work for a big company, the big company often has certain programs that you can attend where you can learn and grow. You can work with talented people sometimes. If you have a great team, you can work with people who are much smarter than you. You can learn just a lot of different skills, which is great, at least in some positions. And you also have often benefits that come with working in a 9 to 5, like, for example, retirement or insurance benefits. So and also, obviously, I feel like if you have a huge crisis situations, depending on the position that you have in a company, but you can still, if you feel bad, you, at least in Germany, probably each country is also different, but in Germany you can just take a time off and work on your mental health. Or if you're sick, you're sick, and you don't have the pressure to make money. And whereas if you're freelancing, it can be, it can cause some pressure sometimes in some situations if you are sick, because you still need to make money. So these are some pros. Some cons is that actually, depending on what job you have, it doesn't have to be certain, so you can lose your job anytime. Obviously, if you're a teacher in Germany, not, because you're working for the government and you're very secure with that, or some situations like officers, something like that. But if you work, for example, as a sales employee, sales manager for a startup, the startup can go bankrupt and you can lose your job. So it's not that secure in a way. Also, you might have less freedom, because now, if you have a boss, the boss tells you what to do. And if you, for example, say, I don't want to do the task, or I want to do this project, because you feel like you're not the right fit or whatever it is, your boss can say to you, and you have to do the project, and then you have to do the project. So there could be less freedom. If you have a boss or a manager that you don't like, it can be a little bit of a struggle, or a huge struggle, because you work for someone that you don't really like, or you feel like you're not being heard or seen. And there's also maybe company policy. So, for example, your company, it could happen that it's not fair, that, for example, someone who's always sick, who never shows up, they earn the same amount of money that you do, even though you work a lot. Or someone who you think is just not qualified for the job still gets the job. So it could be a little bit not fair, and it could annoy you. And also, sometimes, it, depending on the job, obviously, it could be monotonous. So, for example, you could feel like you studied a lot, you love learning, and then you are in a position that it took you maybe some month to learn, but after you learned it, that's just what you do, and there's no more room to grow, because it's you every day make the same thing. And it could feel just very demoralizing, like the feeling that a robot could do it better than you, and it can feel quite sad in a way. So it could feel like complacency as well, that you don't really like the job, but it's good enough not to quit the job. And you could maybe miss out on life. And it could also mean that you have less flexibility. For example, if you would want to work on a Sunday but have free on Wednesday, your company could say no, because we don't allow that, because we are like we have certain structures that are given, or for example, if you say, hey, I want to move to another country but I still want to work for that company, the company could say, no, we don't allow remote work. So you're bound, how do you say, you're dependent on certain structures. So these are some pros and cons of starting your own business and working for someone else. If you have maybe experience in that area, if you have worked for yourself or worked for a company, I think there is no right or wrong. It really depends on your character, what you prefer. Oh, maybe also one last negative aspect. If you work for a startup, for example, and the startup is growing, you're making a lot of profit, it could happen that you don't earn necessarily more just because the startup is growing. Whereas if you're the CEO of a company, you could actually really earn a lot more if the company is making more. So yeah, so share your experience in the comment section. If you like the video, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and if you are curious, have a look at the products that I offer in the comment section. And yeah, and that's really it. So have a beautiful day.